Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our Advancing Your Business, Your People, and Your Legacy conversation series. My name is Kendall Rawls. I'm the Director of Development with the Rawls Group, your host. CFOs are critical in the business and in the succession planning process. Their job is to understand the finances and vulnerabilities related to cash flow, turnover, and any external influences impacting the business. CFOs generally have a close relationship with the owner and understand the owner's goals, vision, and concerns. CFOs are also engaged with other key leaders in the organization, which provides them a unique perspective on the technical and practical issues that could impact the owner's long-term vision. Over the course of this 6-episode series, Ed Reinhard, partner, and Brian Brueggeman, senior manager with Crowe, and our very own succession planner, Loyd Rawls, will discuss how to be a value-added asset as a CFO to the organization. In this episode, we drill down into the role of a CFO, in the organization, and their vested interest in its ongoing success. Here we go. Ed, can you explain the role of a CFO or senior financial officer in succession planning and why they're important to the process for the client?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kendall. To get started, I just wanted to define what a financial officer's responsibilities are and what types of them are out there. So, the financial officer often gets categorized into 3 roles or skill sets: the CFO, the CPO, or the SFO. So the overall profile of a financial officer is an accounting degreed individual with experience, typically with a CPA firm, before joining the dealership group. Not always. The profile has resulted since very few organizations historically have had the ability to internally develop a financial officer. Larger groups these days, though, have established more of a structure, and we're seeing a gradual shift to internally developed financial officers. These individuals are highly skilled and in demand, high demand. If you need one, it's like free agency. Be prepared to pay up. I am comfortable stating that behind every well-run organization, there is a strong financial officer. We typically see 3 areas of responsibilities for the financial officer. Some financial officers work in all areas, while some focus in only one. The 3 most common areas that we see: accounting and financial reporting, operational analysis and management communications, and then strategic planning. Now that I have sort of set the stage, I'd like to describe a little bit more about each of the roles. So the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, is focused on financial reporting and accounting. This includes all accounting for operations and many times other companies such as real estate entities, advertising, other owner side businesses. Many times their role might also include coordinating personal financial information, gathering tax information for the owners, things of that nature. The CPO, or Chief Performance Officer, is operational focused also. So they slice and dice the internal financial statements of each department, looking for opportunities. They meet with the GMs or departmental managers to discuss analysis, trending, and next steps. They are responsible also for creating accurate and timely internal financial statements, but not 100% focused on that area. They are typically supported by a really strong controller type. And then the SFO, Senior Financial Officer, or Special Financial Officer, I've even heard to them referred as Strategic Financial Officer. This title is common for someone who is playing a strategic area along with playing in financial reporting and operational analysis. So really wearing 3 hats. Strategic areas include things like acquisitions or divestitures of stores or businesses, complex debt restructurings or refinancing, this whole succession estate planning, coordination, other investment management, and special projects. All 3 financial officers need to be involved and help with these succession plans. To what degree depends on their skill sets, knowledge level, and willingness. And then the other thing that we see is that typically behind any really strong financial officer that especially can play in the performance area or the strategic planning area, there's a really strong group controller or controller that they rely on. These folks have accounting degrees, are really like the next step in the organization and are being developed as such. All these mentioned, their backgrounds and skills are different, and based upon what the organization is going to do in this area, being complex estate plans or basic estate plans, that would definitely depend on the ability of the individuals to play. So I'm sure there's going to be, further discussions here, but that just sort of summarizes where I think these individuals are and how they can play. So now back to you, Kendall. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. And Loyd, why is the role of the CFO in succession planning so critical for business owners and key leaders to understand?
Kendall, it's critical because the CFO is in a unique position. They understand the finances of the organization. They understand the vulnerability of the organization relative to cash flow. They understand the vulnerability of the operation relative to other strategic issues, such as change in the market, key man, and the other influences that impact the success of an organization. They're also very important because they have typically an intimate relationship with the owner, the CEO, and they're hearing from the owner the concerns, the goals, the aspirations, and that unique position with the owner gives them the opportunity that's unlike anyone else in the organization to suggest to the owner important planning items, priorities, concerns, and things of that nature. And then moreover, the CFO's role means that they're also engaged with others in the organization as a director of sales, a director of service, and various managers. They have exposure to them, and they're picking up their feelings, their concerns, and fundamentally, the CFO is in a crossroads of technical information and extremely practical information that impacts not only the current success, but the long-term success of the organization.
Thanks, Loyd. And Brian, based on your experience working with CFOs and owners, what are common challenges CFOs encounter?
Thanks, Kendall. Yeah, as you can imagine, and as I had discussed when he just spoke, obviously CFOs have a lot going on, and this is a great challenge for them just with what they have to work on in their current workload, along with the potential for succession planning. Also, given that this is an intimate, detail, and succession planning can be, very intimate with family members, and they do not want to overstep their boundaries, and it may be an uncomfortable subject for them. And also, given that succession planning by its very nature takes years to bear fruit, some CFOs might not be as motivated as CFOs are driven and rewarded with short-term accomplishments such as cost-cutting measures, etc.
Loyd, can you explain how CFOs are an advocate for succession planning?
Yes, Kendall. CFOs are an advocate for succession planning because they're typically facts-based thinkers versus experiential-based thinkers. And their analytical approach to things help them come to a reasonably objective conclusion about major impediments that might be impacting the continued success of the organization. From their perspective, they understand that their career as a chief financial officer provides them a very strong vested interest in the organization. And then they speak as an advocate for the rest of the organization, many of whom do not have a voice, and their perspective allows them to see what's happening with prospective successor candidates, whether it be family member or key managers, what the bench strength looks like, and understanding that everybody who is providing a serious commitment to the organization has a vested interest in the continued success of the organization.
And Ed, in addition to what's been shared by the others, what else is important for CFOs to know about their role in succession planning?
Well, I think a very key and basic item is that they need to understand their role in this whole thing and get it clearly defined and work that. So, what is their role in the process? And do all the parties agree on this? You've got, majority owners, you've got attorneys, maybe your CPA firm involved. You could have the Rawls Group involved. You got succession planners. You've got adult kids in and out of the business, spouses. There's a lot of moving pieces. So I think getting clearly defined what their role is going to be is critical. And then the other part of that is communication, and communicate often, communicate to the right parties, especially about financial information. They know more about the financial information, really, in my mind, than anyone. And so they really need to focus in on the communication of that information on a timely basis, accurately, and help compile it. A lot of owners are extremely wealthy, but they don't really have like a personal balance sheet of what their assets might look like, or their liabilities, or even what their cash flow is. And so the ability of the CFO to do that in a organized fashion and provide that to all of these parties that are part of the succession planning team is really critical for the success, along with understanding their role in the process. So thanks, everyone. And I think this wraps up this session. So have a great day.
CFOs have such an important role in succession. Wow, what an incredible, influential position to hold. The next episode of the series focuses on CFO opportunities in succession planning. Do you have a question you want to discuss with an expert? Feel free to reach out directly to Ed, Brian, or Loyd at the email addresses listed on the screen. Want more information on Crowe's CFO forums? Contact Brian Brueggeman. Continue listening to the series now or come back for more. Each topic features may want you to learn something new.